Hello and welcome to Is It Worth It Day Trips. Today we'll be checking out the reopening of the National Railway Museum in York since its closure in March, and this is recorded in August, so it's been a little while. The Great Hall is open and has all the normal trains. It's good to see all the attractions there as normal. To the left you can see the Japanese bullet train, one of the original models, and to the right you can see the Eurostar. I actually can't remember this mini shop being in the Great Hall before. Maybe it was there. But if you want to be the proud owner of a £150 train, be my guest. The top level of the Great Hall is also back up and running with all the normal displays. The second floor of the Great Hall is also recommended actually. Just pop up in the left, you get some fantastic views from up there. This is another little cabinet by the bullet train. I've not noticed it before. I assume it was there, but it just goes through the history of bullet trains, some interesting information. And next to the display was another train which didn't have any English writing. I assume it might be the next model. Looks quite cool though. And this is just by the actual bullet train, so just behind it. I'm not a massive train enthusiast myself, although my son really enjoys his trains. Here's my son to scale actually next to a huge train in the middle of the Great Hall. But even so, I really enjoyed having a bit of a nosy round. My son really enjoyed his time there. He thought the train to the left was the Polar Express. To be fair, it does look quite like it. But you can just spend quite a good bit of time just wandering around, seeing the different types of train. It's a good way to spend a bit of an afternoon. I'd certainly recommend it. Here's some footage of me just having a bit of a wander around and just checking out some of the models and some of the history of the trains. Enjoy. You can see the firebox and all the pipes for the steam. And the tiny size of Martin in comparison. This was an interesting display called a dandy cart. Apparently before they had trains, they would let horses pull the carts up the hills, and then they'd put them in the carts and let them ride down again, which sounds absolutely terrifying. Bit of a shout out to this particular train, the Duchess of Hamilton, which I reckon has a really cool Art Deco look to it. And this is the Mallard, which is a really famous steam train because it's the fastest steam train ever made. I think it was 126 miles per hour. What's down there?
The Mallard train!
The Mallard train, you're right, it is. And why is the Mallard train special?
Why is it special? Because they need to go fast.
Because it goes super fast, you're right.
Yeah, I've never been on that train.
No, you've never been on that train. It's very old.
It goes super fast like the other one.
The museum has plenty of hand sanitizer checkpoints and quite a lot of signage about how to keep your distance. And guests are generally very good when it comes to keeping that 2 metre separation, so no problem there. There's plenty of space in the museum. Unfortunately, there are some closures. The Mallard experience had to be pre-booked and was fully booked when we turned up. The station hall was shut. which is a huge part of the overall museum, so that was disappointing. And then the play areas are again all shut down, which isn't great for the little ones. A lot of little disappointed kids whilst we were there, including our own, and the model railway as well, which is a favourite of my son's. So he was gutted about that. That wasn't a highlight, and it's a shame as well, because I think there could be a one-way system in here. There's plenty of space, and then the north shed again was shut. Between these components of the museum, I would say that what was open was probably about a third of the entire experience. With that in mind, we had a bit of time to burn. We were only in the museum for about an hour and a half in total. So we had a bit of a day trip to York, saw the York Minster, which is always great to see. Went into the High Street. It's a really historic, amazing city is York, so it's really recommended. It reminds me of Harry Potter walking down some of these streets. So yeah, if you've not been before, I would definitely recommend a trip out there. The only issue was with COVID and the very small alleyways. It was a bit more of a struggle to keep distance than in the museum itself. Overall, I enjoyed my trip out. I thought it was still a good day. It was disappointing that there was so much shut. But still, if you're desperate to get out of the house and organised enough to pre-book, it's still worth an outing. With that said, if you can wait a month or two just to let the museum get back on its feet after the COVID crisis, that would probably be my recommended route. At the very least, I want to see the mini railway around the back reopen, as that's my son's favourite thing. In terms of cost, the actual museum is free. Parking will cost you £10 and it's all-day parking, and you can always walk down into York for that. And food is pretty reasonable. It asked to pre-book food online, but that wasn't required. We could just sit down and eat as we needed there. So to sum up, is it worth it? Yes. But if possible, I would wait a little while just to give the museum a little bit more time to get up and running. I think I'll come back in a month or two just to check on things, and keep fingers crossed that more will be open for that time around. So I'll keep things posted on the channel. As always, thank you very much for watching, and feel free to subscribe and press that bell for notifications on upcoming day trips. We have more in the pipeline.